Hello there, this is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com, and today we're going to be talking about the best books. So today we're going to go over what a good book is. Last time what we talked about is what makes a book dangerous and why it's important to be very careful about what kind of books a person chooses, because we had examples of people that chose poorly as a teen, and it hurt them for the rest of their young adult life, and sometimes they never recovered, compared to those who read books in their youth that inspired them to go on and do wonderful things. Now, there are a number of books that are nonfiction and fiction that will fall into this category. I'm talking about like a self-help kind of a book, or a fiction book that's really good. Like we'll say here, The Lord of the Rings is really good for that. But however, in our time, there are also so much competing with that. There's so much that is in the fantasy realm and in the nonfiction realm that's competing and overshadowing it, shall we say. We have the superhero movies, and then we have the books, and we have the Harry Potter series, and etc., and so on and so forth. And while you're a parent that has a reluctant reader or a young reader, and that's an impressionable mind, in the teen years especially, and you want to make sure that child is reading good stuff that will train their character, will inspire them in their walk with God. Still, these kids, they are young. Teens, they look for these kind of things. They look for what's idealistic because they're idealistic. They want to believe that ultimate good is possible, right? They are looking for adventure. They want it. The world is exciting. They want to get into what makes the world exciting. They would experience things, and they want to read about people who are experiencing exciting things. Okay, they want a good story. They don't want something boring that's endless and hopeless and whatever. And they want it to be dynamic, right? They are interested in people hearing about how people have overcome obstacles, overcome evil, right? So, a well-chosen biography. Now, we're talking about the best for all of these. To touch on all of these criteria for a teen is a good biography or autobiography. The reason being is that truth is stranger than fiction. And it's one thing to trump up a fantastical character, but it has to be believable. Number one, he has to have feet of clay, as they say. But it's another thing to take a regular human being that was born of a woman, that's just in the earth, and watch the fantastic things that they can experience in life and that God can do through them. I tell you what, biographies cover everything, and they are amazing. A really good biography will inspire your teen. Now, there's some bad biographies about bad people, okay? So you still have to be discriminating, but I've got to tell you that a biography takes the things that you're trying to teach your kids in the Bible, and it puts it where the rubber meets the road, right? And so it's really important. Now, if you hear stomping and things upstairs, it's because my girls are making their lunch. Anyway, so I would like to show you a few examples of these. Here is one. This is The Cross and the Switchblade. This is about a pastor from Pennsylvania, I think Western Pennsylvania, and reached the different gangs in New York City. Interesting. This is it's an amazing thing how God works in his life. It's really a fun read. The Cross and the Switchblade by David Wilkerson. There's one. Here's one that I've read before, but I bought it again for my family, and oh man, everybody is pouring through this book, and it's like everybody's vying to read it next. It's God's Smugglers. It's about Brother Andrew and what he did to smuggle Bibles behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War. Talk about how God worked in this man's life, provided amazingly. People, it's just, I don't want to mess it up, but this is an amazing, adventurous book. Your kids will love it. This is one I think I mentioned before. This is Evidence Not Seen. This young lady was in a Japanese camp, Japanese prison camp during World War II in Indonesia. I tell you what, talk about God coming through and the things that she learned about the Lord in this book. This is an amazing, adventurous, overcoming book. This is good, especially for girls. This is To China with Love. This is by Hudson Taylor, who founded the China Inland Mission. And it talks about how God would prepared him from a young age to be a missionary to China and his adventures. This is a lot of fun too. I don't know if you've ever heard of Watchman Nee, but he was a Chinese Christian, and this is called Against the Tide. This is a biography of his life. Lots and lots of cool things in here. A lot of fun. This right here, oh, this is such a riveting story. You can't hardly help but cry when you think about this story. In God's Underground. This is about the underground church in Romania during the Cold War. This will really grab your heart. There's lots of overcoming. There's so much pathos in this book. This is a really good read, but you want to have a child that's, I think, at least 16 to read it, because it really deals with some really hard truths, but it's very inspiring. This one was written by Elizabeth Elliot. And she also has written a number of things. One of them is Through Gates of Splendor. That's about her husband, Jim Elliot, and a number of Nate Saint, and I forget all the names. But anyway, they went down to South America, to the jungle, to bring the gospel to the Auca Indians. And she also has, Savage, My Kinsman, I think she wrote that. And she also wrote about Jim Elliot's life. That's another biography that she's written. So she's really a good writer, and I think you would really enjoy this one too. Your kids will. Yeah. A Chance to Die is about Amy Carmichael in India. So it's really a good read. My daughters have read it, and there's a lot of good stuff in here as well. Now, that's not, those are just some examples I have physically. I also have The Hiding Place. That's a really good one too. That one really is really for an older child. But what they do is, like we talked about Philippians 4:8 last time. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is just, right? And so these books aren't candy-coated, sugar puff books. They are dealing with realities of life. But they're doing it in such a way where we see the overcoming love of God being the answer in those situations. And young people really need to see that through the eyes of other people. And it really encourages them to go on and do bigger and better things. Now, I'm going to mention some others that I don't have physically in my hand now. I might have them in my library, but I also went online and I found a number of them that I know that are pretty good. So, one of the biographies that's really good, and it's not necessarily a Christian biography, but it is really a good biography that's really like about overcoming, is about the adventures of Shackleton down in the Antarctic. And I don't know if you know the story of Shackleton, but he had this ship that was supposed to withstand, the hull was super thick, and it was supposed to withstand, all kinds of ice, and the ice surrounded the ship and was cracking it up. And so he and his exploring crew on that ship had to abandon, and they had to find their way back to the tip of South America. And I forget how many people he had with him. He didn't lose one person. And it's just really an amazing overcoming story. So that's a fun one to read. Okay, another one is Mission Possible. Mission Possible, I just read that. I have that too, but I think it's being repaired or it's in someone's room and they're reading it. That's about smuggling Bibles too. So that's an amazing thing. Okay, then we have, let's see, the biography of Charles Finney. That's an amazing one. David Brainerd. That's another missionary. Get a good biography of David Brainerd. They have them out there. John Kerry. That's a good one. Corrie ten Boom, and it talked about The Hiding Place. She's got a biography of her young life and a biography of her whole life, and she's just amazing. Okay, a biography of St. Francis of Assisi. That's really, really moving for young people. Ben Franklin's autobiography. That's a way to get a different picture of our American heritage, our American history. Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. That's a more contemporary one. Then we have, I looked on Christian book distributors. I think they call it, I forget what, the Christian Bible or something like that. Christian book, that's what they call it, Christian book online. That company has been around many, 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 many years. When I first started homeschooling, I used to order from them all the time. Well, online they have a store, and there's some that you can find there. If you want to like find some good biographies, just put biography in, and they'll come up a whole bunch of stuff. R.G. Letourneau looks like a good one. Mover of Men and Mountains. Now that's about a fella who was in construction, and he learned business principles, biblical business principles. That's really good. Also, if you want to do a biography of Sears and the fellow who did Montgomery Ward and Sears and Roebuck and J.C. Penney's, those are all really interesting ones. I believe those are all believers. There's the George Mueller's autobiography. That's really good. George Mueller, he's the one that had the orphanage, and he fed all these orphans just on faith alone. It's a really good one. He knows how to pray. He knew how to pray. Okay, Sabina, Tortured for Christ the Nazi Years. That's in God's Underground. That is Richard Wurmbrand. His wife is Sabina Wurmbrand, and this is her story. So that's really good. Let's see. Bonhoeffer is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was one of the conspirators that tried to blow up Hitler. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. That's really good. Let's see, C.H. Spurgeon. He is a fascinating man to study. Fox's Book of Martyrs is something that every young person should read to understand a history of the Christian church through the lens of martyrdom. It's really something else. Let's see, Run Baby Run. That's a really good one. I really would suggest that one. That's like the companion to The Cross and the Switchblade. That's Nicky Cruz's personal story of how he came to the Lord. Okay, let me see if there's some others. I know there are lots of others. Let's see. The Small Woman. That's about Gladys Aylward. Oh, you will love her story. She is just this little tiny short lady, and she decides that she's just going to go to China and tell them about Jesus. All alone. No missionary board, nothing. She just saves her money and goes. Talk about an adventure. Your kids will love that one. Okay, The Shadow of the Almighty is the one that Elizabeth Elliot wrote about Jim Elliot. That's really good. Let's see. Bruchko, I hear, is good. I've not read it, but I hear it's good. Susie, The Life and Legacy of Susanna Spurgeon, which would be interesting to find out the other side, the other half of Spurgeon's life. Okay, believe it or not, Steve McQueen, he's a famous actor. The Salvation of an American Icon, he came to Jesus, and it was really dramatic how he came to the Lord. So that sounds like a good story. Kisses from Kate. That's an autobiography, and it is very fun, and our daughters have loved that book. That's a new one, relatively new. Okay, the biography of C.T. Studd, Adoniram Judson. The biography of J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. That would be interesting. Smith Wigglesworth, Apostle of Faith. That's really riveting. Let's see, Meeting God Behind Enemy Lines. That's about a soldier who had to live his faith while he was in the military overseas in the Middle East. That's really good. The Power and the Glory. Let's see. Okay, that's John Ross and the Evangelization of Manchuria and Korea. Anything by Maria von Trapp. Like when she, the Sound of Music, right? That's about the Von Trapp family. Well, Maria von Trapp is the one that wrote their story. And when you read that, that's really an amazing story. The true story is, truth is stranger than fiction. It's a lot of fun. Okay, now let's see. I'm trying to find, Okay, so that is just a short list of the possibilities. But I tell you what, your kids will absolutely love that. If you can get them turned on to biographies, you probably will have trouble turning that switch off. But you will also notice that as they read these, they're going to be understanding. There's just something about reading the truth about how God has been working in people's lives that it's hard not to have that impact how your kids will live. So it's really positive. So now you know the best books. Here's something more. Okay, so I was thinking, I heard this phrase in my head, and I may have heard someone say it, but it stuck, and it was something the Lord wanted me to talk about. And it's this phrase: don't leave your post. Now, in the Army, okay, when you're in basic training, you are taught this very important activity called guard duty. And guard duty, everybody, when you say guard duty, they groan, oh, guard duty, right? Because basically what it is you have to walk around for 2 hours or stand in place for 2 hours or sit someplace and watch something for 2 hours. And in your mind, this is like total waste of energy, total waste of time. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it is important. Now, you find out, like if you watch like the old combat series or something, what you find out is that guard duty is some of the most important work a soldier can do. Guard duty means that you, if an enemy wants to come, let's say that you're not on the front lines with your army. You're in one of the behind posts, and all you just have a whole bunch of gasoline that you're guarding. And so you're walking around back and forth, you're pacing back and forth, and it's like, whoa, what am I doing with my life? But the enemy is watching, you see, because the enemy wants to blow up that gasoline, because that gasoline is what you put in the tanks that roll and destroy the enemy, right? So the enemy doesn't want you to have that gasoline, so they watch. And if there's a guard that isn't walking back and forth, and they decide there's nobody out here tonight, I don't have to be out here walking back and forth. I'm going to go in over here where it's warmer, and I'm going to warm my hands, then I'll go back out and I'll check every once in a while, right? So the enemy's watching for that. And when they see that someone isn't taking it serious, the enemy will take and they'll sneak in and they'll blow up that gasoline, right? And they'll sabotage. They'll do whatever they have to. That's what the enemy does. Okay, so we have a post, right? I have a post. Now, it's not glamorous. I don't get to wear special clothes and do extravagant travel, and potentates aren't asking me to come in for interviews or anything like that. No, my post here is I'm supposed to keep the floors clean, keep people fed nutritious food. I'm supposed to being soothing owies and making sure people get their vitamins. These are the things that I'm supposed to do on my post. Now, sometimes when I was a young mom and I had little tiny people, my job every day was to keep the little humans alive, right? Because there was a million ways they could think to end their lives. They didn't know it. Okay, but that was my post. My post, I was on the lookout for these precious human beings. They weren't just material human beings. They were spiritual beings. They were made in the image of God. They were God's image bearers. And it was my post to watch them and to help them through their lives. I have mostly young people today. My youngest child is 13. And I have almost all adults that are either married or on their way to get married or something like that. And I'm still at my post. I'm still soothing owies. I'm still answering questions. I'm still just there to bolster and encourage and point the way to Jesus. That's my job, right? And this is my post. Maybe sometimes it seems like I'm spinning my wheels. Like some days I don't really even get to do anything really spiritual. What I'm mostly doing is folding towels and cleaning floors and making dinners, right? But you know what? If I don't take my post, if I'm not in prayer, if I'm not spiritually covering my family by mentioning them in prayer at the altar of God in my heart every day, then I am leaving my post, and I'm allowing the enemy to say, oh, there's an opening. I can come in and I can steal, kill, and destroy, right? And so we don't realize it, but some of the most important work is done by those who are staying at their post and they're guarding their homes. That's some of the most important work in the world. Let me read you from the Word of God what it says. Now this is in Titus chapter 2, and it's familiar to a lot of us, but I'm going to read it. Maybe you can see it through new eyes with what I've just said. Okay, so this is qualities of a sound church. All right, and first he's going to address the men and then the women. It says, but as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. That they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. Okay, so that was verses verses 1 through 5. Okay, let's go particularly on verse 5. It says, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers. Now, that homemaker could be also home gardeners, right? Good, obedient to their own husbands. Now, what is the reason? That the word of God may not be blasphemed. So, in other words, we claim to be bearers of Christ's kingdom in us, and if we don't watch our homes, the enemy can come in and start destroying our marriages, destroying our children, destroying all these things. Now, none of us can totally keep our young people from making decisions that are destructive. We can't. But wherever we can, we have a responsibility from God, and we need to take that seriously. You see, God's holding us accountable not for the decisions everybody else makes, but for what we did in this world to be His kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And that means that we are trying to bring a little bit of heaven with us wherever we go, right? We're trying to be to produce children that understand that even if they fall away from it, they know what the truth is, right? That's it. We're standing guard, and like all my kids are mostly grown. But what I do is I stand in guard in prayer for them every day. I mention their names and their spouses' names and their children's names, and I stand before God in the courtroom of God, and I stand before Him, and I say the names of all those that I love, and I bring them before Him, and I confess sins for them. I ask forgiveness for them. I go and I do those things. Well, ultimately, Jesus is our advocate, right? But we have a part to play. We are supposed to be interceding for this. So I do it in prayer, and I do it physically in whatever way I can. And that way I'm sticking to my post. I'm not getting distracted by what everybody else says that I should be doing. I should be, now I'm in my 50s, I should be free from the fetters of family. Now I should be doing my own thing and making my own mark and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I still have a place here in my family. This is my post that God's given me, and I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to do it till He releases me. I'm going to stay at my post, even if it doesn't always make sense. So I hope that blesses you. I hope that helps you today. You have a God bless day. Please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.